I'm going to introduce Aaron, who helped set all of this up. And some of you have seen Aaron if you've attended any of our LF Edge meetups. He's a developer advocate with LF Edge. And Aaron, do you want to introduce yourself and introduce Kathy and get going?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure. Love to. Yeah, as Han said, I'm the developer advocate and community manager for the Linux Foundation's LF Edge projects. So there are 9 projects under the LF Edge umbrella, and so I work with them to help promote them and manage those communities there. But for Kathy, I met her in previous life. Before this, I worked for SAP, and I was the global director for their D shops, which are SAP's internal makerspace. If you're familiar with Microsoft, just wanted to say that to a bunch of Seattle people. Microsoft has what they call the garage. So the D shop was a similar type thing, especially the internal makerspace. The garage actually has some other components to them. I'm very familiar with them, but so the idea here is we were SAP's kind of internal developer advocates. We kind of lobbied on behalf of our community, built out that community. If you've ever worked for a large company, you know that you can kind of get lost very quickly. Anyways, one of the things that we really tried to do was bring in hardware, and we always were looking for speakers. And at some embedded software event, I bumped into Kathy, realized that she lived not too far from our campus in Palo Alto, and was able to bring her in to talk about Arduino and how to do it. At the time, she was a VP for operations for them. And so that was such a great speaker, or she was such a great speaker at that, for that event. And then we were able to kind of work with her on a lot of things around education, women in coding, or women in software, and kind of had a lot of synergy that we could do. So it was somebody who just great person to meet and to have as a friend and whatnot. But before that, for her, she was worked for Qualcomm as an electrical engineer, has various other jobs that she's had here in the Valley. For various things. She got her bachelor's in electrical engineering from the University of Minnesota, and then her master's in electrical engineering from Stanford University. So after her stint, at Arduino, she kind of moved on to Mozilla, working and promoting their WebThings. And currently, she is a very sought-after advisor for the use of boards, these microcontrollers, for education, industry, encouraging girls to code, but also privacy. How do you build out a smart home without opening up your world to the Amazons and the Googles of the world? Currently, looking at her LinkedIn, just has a long list of companies that she's an advisor for. So with great pleasure, I get to introduce a friend of mine. So Kathy, please take it away. Add in anything that I didn't, say about you. And so, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Aaron. Thanks. That's like a really nice intro, and I haven't done all that many things, but I do try to, when I find good people to work with and have appreciated working with them, I try to keep up, and I ran into Aaron recently, so it's kind of fun to catch up. I'm going to show a few slides before I walk around my house, and then a little bit of time I might show some cool things you can do with microcontrollers, because that's one of my fun things I do now is education, pushing physical computing for education. And my home, I'm just going to give you a quick preview. Basically this is my home. This is the WebThings project that started at Mozilla, but then it spun out. It's now a community project, WebThings.io or WebThings.io. And the cool part about it is, like, for example, This is my desk lamp right here that's sitting in front of you. And I don't know if you can tell, but the lighting on my face might have changed. So that was a way to turn it on. A way to turn it off is this Samsung Smartthings button. So that's an Ikea light bulb. It's a Zigbee light bulb. This is a Zigbee-based push button. And I have programmed a rule such that a double press turns it off. A single press turns it on, and then this button also supports a long press, which I can make it go full brightness. So that's the type of tour I'm going to be giving as we walk around. But before we walk around, I want to kind of describe the technology behind the system. So I am going to make sure I have the right button here. Share my screen, pull you over to my presentation side of the house, and let that load up. Okay, do you all see my screen, or holler if you don't?
We do.
Okay, so making smart homes secure. So I'm going to take you on a tour, but like I said before that, I'm going to talk about smart homes. And so the three pillars of the WebThings project were basically privacy, security, and interoperability. But for consumers, we also want to invest our time and energy and money into something that has value, is cost effective, like is affordable. So I threw that into my main smart home concerns is it secure? I don't want hackers accessing my home through networking. Is it private? I don't want to send all my data out to the global tech titans. And I think it just feels creepy. It would be like living in a glass house. You want everyone looking at what you're doing inside? I don't think so. And then interoperability is a big problem because there's the Zigbee stuff and the Z-Wave stuff and the Wi-Fi stuff. And now there's a new chip protocol coming out. And so what we found is you really can't force fit industry into one radio or one messaging protocol, but we have this thing called the World Wide Web, and the web does have standards, and the Web of Things is actually a standards body group within the W3C. So the interoperability I'm showing here today is actually interoperability at a web services layer. So there are JSON thing descriptions behind all the things in my house. And these things, this button doesn't speak JSON, but I take in the Zigbee application information and we turn it into the appropriate thing description so that everything becomes interoperable at that stage. And that way, when you buy stuff and the company goes out of business, it's not a brick as long as you have a way to adapt it to the standard. The other really important thing to me from a privacy perspective on this slide is to explain that all of my thing data is being stored and processed on a Raspberry Pi. I walk over, it's in another room, but so I'm not sending all my data to a cloud somewhere. There are certain devices that, like my one web camera that points out the front door, that I haven't converted to something local only, but there's some projects people are working on that I will slowly try to get everything to make sure that all of my data is kept locally, even though I can access it locally. And the nice thing about that too is, like, if my internet connection goes down, this Zigbee device turning on that light bulb still works. Like my motion sensors and stuff, everything still works. Turning on and off things still works. So that's a nice thing about having it local and private. And the other final nice thing is I just have one, for all of my different devices from many different brands, I have one application that I need to run. It's all in one place and all my rules are tied everything together. So I don't have to, typical vendor. Actually, for some of these devices, I have to load the vendor app just to get the thing onto my local network. And, at least the Wi-Fi things require that. And so then I end up with all these extra apps that I only use for onboarding provisioning and then never use again, unless I need to switch something. And so the interoperability, again, is at a Web of Things layer for the W3C initiative, and you can take all these different protocol stacks and layers, and then Chip is coming along. Hopefully that would just be yet another layer like Weave and Bluetooth and Zigbee and Z-Wave. And this way, you know, the hub is the hub of your own home, things around it. You can buy smart devices, certain things that have add-ons. I'll explain add-ons in a bit. And you can also make things. So the JSON, just describing these things in JSON is easy enough that I can turn these into Web of Thing compliant devices. And the Wi-Fi ones are native. They just hook up directly. So you can build your own. And then I have a tutorial online. This one's still branded Mozilla. I gotta remove that branding. And the framework, there's a whole bunch of libraries. So no matter what language you like, if you like to try out Rust, you know, there's WebThings libraries that are now supported, you know, it's all open source, supported by the community. And there's a MicroBlocks library, which is what I use for the educational software. And it makes things really easy. So microblocks.fun, if you have kids or you feel like a kid yourself, like I love to do, programming these types of microcontrollers, these types of things, and Circuit Playground Expresses, and all of the ESP8266 or ESP32 devices, and lots of 32-bit stuff. I mean, it looks like kids programming, but it's actually extremely fun because MicroBlocks is live. So you can actually build web things out of MicroBlocks really easily. And the reason for that is there's a block that lets you pick a capability, like say I want to have a door sensor, and I have a little magnetic sensor. I just select the capability door sensor, property of open property, and a probably no event, and it just builds the JSON for me. So on this slide, I don't know if you can read it, but I have the hello LED. It's like hello world of WebThings speak, and I pick a capability light with an on-off property assigned to a variable, and it creates all that JSON for me. I don't have to know what it looks like. And so this is a simple example where the blocks show my program, and then I onboard, for example, a microbit to the WebThings Gateway, which I'm going to show soon, and I'm able to turn on and off the built-in user LED just with like a handful of blocks here. Now this doesn't do Wi-Fi, so I actually have to plug it in, but you can do a radio to radio connection because these speak radio. So if I had two of these, I can actually do a remote link for WebThings. And I just want to mention some of my other favorite educational programs. If you have kids, take notes. snap.berkeley.edu is an awesome project. And you can also talk between microcontrollers, physical computing, and Snap. Behind the MicroBlocks is actually a virtual machine that we build using Platform.io, another of my favorite open source software tools for programming microcontrollers. And then demos, I'm not going to show you that. But here's the WebThings.io links. And I have some YouTube playlists for MicroBlocks and IoT. A couple articles in Make Magazine, issue 72 and 74, I think. And then these are open source projects. So the get involved means like help us translate to different languages. You can chat with us. WebThings has many different translations, and the MicroBlocks also has fewer but several translations. And so those are those kind of 4 projects I thought are really valuable open source ones to talk about. But now I know you're all waiting to check out, you know, how's this going to work with the demo of my smart home. So before I unplug and start walking around, I just want to give you a quick overview of what this shows. And this is basically the web interface that builds itself based on the WebThing definition. So the WebThing definition of this particular commercial camera, it's a FOSCAM camera, is it's got a profile, whether I want high quality streaming it or not. And then the simple thing is just the snapshot. So if I click the snapshot, it just shows the camera's pointed from my laundry room up front outside the front door. And I can access, this is just, WebRTC, I can access this image from anywhere through a tunneling server that gets me into my Raspberry Pi from outside if I wanted to. And so anything that you open has information about it. The second thing I'm showing you is the air quality of an air quality sensor that I don't even own. It's somewhere, on Stanford campus, and it tells me the humidity and the temperature, and then the air quality index, which is really low right now, which is great. But back last summer, we had all those wildfires. The air quality was really bad at times, and I would always be checking this, and I set up some rules such that when it went too high, I would close the windows and doors. You didn't want that smoke, that bad air quality in your house. So I would have it alert me when it exceeded the moderate threshold and went into the unhealthy range. So again, you see those parameters and things like push buttons. It depends on the push button. The Samsung ones are cool because they tell you a lot of different things, including the temperature. All the Samsung Smartthings tell you the temperature, the battery operated stuff, which is super cool, but they don't make them anymore, unfortunately. If you see that the study area motion was just detected, that's because my husband is sitting in another room on a conference call of his own. And so because he often forgot to turn off the light when he left that room, the little lamp there, I detected when there was no motion for at least, I forget, 30 minutes, I think. And no motion for 30 minutes, then I turned it off automatically. And again, this is my desk lamp right here that I just turned on, and you can see this is an Ikea bulb, so it actually has a brightness setting. I can make it, dimmer or brighter, and turn it on and off, and from any web, it's just a web app, so it's pretty easy. And this push button that I was demonstrating before, that's right next to it, if you look at the event log, it actually tells, what button presses. So if I do it right now, and I push a press, it just shows that it's pressed right now. It keeps track of that, and it also has the temperature. And so then I'll walk around. Let's see, I'll show you a few more things. Cool things to do are a Sonos speaker. So there's a Sonos speaker that's just an IP speaker, and I hook it up to play Radio Swiss Jazz, and I'll be able to turn that on and off, with the app or with my voice, or I have a button sitting right near it that I can just click the button and it turns on and off. So there's many different ways to turn things on and off when you actuate them. So the Sonos is one of those things. This is a fancier button from Ikea, and so it has it's a dimmer button. It has 5 different buttons, and I just create rules to what all these buttons, what they all do. The Google Home here, I leave it on mute, but I have all these pre-canned messages that I can have it say, and I have them tied to rules so that, Porsche motion detected is one, or bad air quality. And basically you can have it say, you can have it speak anything. I can just say, hello IoT hub, and set the volume for, 50, and I can submit that query. And you probably can't hear it, but I can actually hear it from another room such that it just said that. I'll demonstrate that during my walkthrough. Colored lights, of course you can pick the color for what you want the different color to be. So you can set all these different colors. What else is interesting? Oh, and I mentioned the purple air, this air quality one is actually an internet thing. It comes from the internet. I don't have the sensor myself. So several of these other things that come from the internet are such as, NOAA has the tide. And so the tide in Redwood City, where I go rowing, I can look up the tide information just right on the spot. The weather is right here, and this is internet weather that comes from Open Weather Map, I think, API. So there are things that are interested, like whether or not it's raining, what the wind speed is, and you might want to create rules based on that. I have a lot of different motion sensors and different brands and varieties. And then Slack, I use Slack actually for messaging so that I get it on my smartphone. Even if I'm out of house, I'll get a message for any of these big alerts. And some of the cool alerts is like if it's an earthquake over 5.0, I have that alert me. And that's another internet thing. It comes from, it's pulled from the USGS. So where does this stuff come from? So there's a framework. I'll show you first the add-ons. The add-on framework has been basically the community has supported all these different add-ons, and you can go to, you click on the name of the person who wrote it, it takes you to the GitHub repository. They're all open source licensed, but there could be different licenses. You can check that as well. And then certain things have configuration, like this one, you know, what's my latitude, longitude, and, you know, what do I want to just sunset and sunrise as? And this works for me because I have outdoor lights on the front porch that turn on at sunset and then turn off. I turn them off at like 10 p.m. And so I don't have to change during all the year of the seasons. I don't have to change and like say, I don't have to change my rules or time. I just leave it set at sunset, it goes on automatically. So that's pretty cool. And the earthquake monitor, again, you look at a latitude, longitude, and this pulls from the USGS, and you can say how often to pull it. You know, for the Google Home Alert, you just configure what you want it to say. So there's a significant earthquake. I have it say there's a significant earthquake over 5.0, and there's an intruder that says, you know, unauthorized persons must leave the premises immediately, and it says it really loud. And so when we're away, I arm it such that all the doors, if any of the doors are opened, it says this really loudly that, you know, that authorities being contacted. Well, authorities really means me, but still that's kind of cool. I thought that was pretty clever. I have a little leak detector under the sink, and so it will tell me to check for a possible leak. Front porch motion detector, you know, somebody's dropping off a package when the air quality is bad. Let's see, I had a Happy New Year in here. Oh, if the garage is left open, you know, classic thing. So I have a door sensor on the garage such that if it's open more than 5 minutes, it tells me because you don't want to leave your garage door open accidentally. And, you know, the cool thing about these types of messages is it's not just a beep. It actually tells you something. It tells you something you can understand right off the bat. The OnVIF is for that IP camera I showed you. The pulse adapter is really cool because this is how I create my like timers or buttons. Like I use pulses, 1 second pulses as buttons to turn things on or off, or to be a timeout for when the study lamp is left on or the garage is left open. And then purple air is that air quality, and I can configure how far outside my home I want to keep track of that. And the Sonos and the Tide calendars and TV links. And Voco is one of the coolest things. Basically, it's a snip space package. The voice control one is based on deep speech. It's not as good a quality yet. So I've been using Voco recently, and it's super cool because I can basically talk, turn things on and off, or ask questions of things, or set timers or reminders. And it's all voice processed locally, nothing to the cloud. That'll always impress your friends. And then Zigbee down here, big one. So if I click this plus right here, you can actually see all the add-ons. And there's different types. There's the properties of things, and then there are add-ons for like notifier add-ons. For example, you can have it send you email or SMS messages, or however you can godify, whatever. So there are literally hundreds of add-ons now. And again, what an add-on is interoperability. It brings everything together so that it's all interoperable under one roof. So there's just tons of add-ons. Go explore that. I'm sure there's many I should also be using. And then you can do localization. The domain is your own private domain. I won't go into all the other details, but then the next cool thing is rules. So I told you about the press, when I press this button, here's a simple rule. I event pressed, click this button, and the desk lamp goes on. And then the next one, double press for off and long press to make it go max volume. And then I have different, lights illuminate at sunset. This one here, so when it's sunset, then I turn on my desk lamp, to make it look like somebody's home if we're away. And the porch and front garden LEDs, and then certain things on in the house. And if I'm around, I turn those other things off. Things like, here's the, if I'm away, if any of these doors, so this is a case of an or rule. So if this door is open or that door or that door or that door, then I ping myself on Snack. I notify if I'm on a browser. I turn all of the lights on and turn them red if they're colored lights. I do the loud intruder alert, and I have a little mini upstairs too, so it's alerted twice. So that's kind of a fun one. But you can see that one right now is disabled. So I would just click this button to enable, and then it would turn on if I opened a door. And then this was a cool one too, when the air quality was bad and it was over 100, and my upper deck door screen door was open, because that's our upper master bedroom, and it was an even minute, then it would tell us bad air quality. And I actually even, and then you just had to shut the door, and that was an ANDed rule, so you just had to shut the door, and then it would stop telling you that. Anyway, rules. There's a lot of cool rules. The timeout, again, so the garage door is open and the hour is greater than a certain time, then the timeout will tell us that the garage door is left open. So putting together all these rules is really easy. It's drag and drop. And the last thing I'm going to show you before we go on the tour is the logs. So the logs are just kept locally on the Raspberry Pi. It's a 7-day window of logs, so I can look at things on a daily basis or an hourly or minute or a week. And so if I look at like the entry door where we go in and out of the house, you can see like overnight, there's usually nobody there, but you can see, like, imagine just one door as a window into the tech titans of the world, knowing when you come and go and how often, and and then where there's motion in some of the rooms and so forth. So again, that's stuff you really don't want to share with everyone. And instead I look at the front door, it's much less used than the side door. And then when you look at things like temperature, you can compare temperature in your house to temperature outside. So this weather Stanford temperature is actually the internet. You can see the stepped case because it's only gathered every hour. And then here's an indoor temperature monitor, but you can see it sort of monitors that trends. And then because we're an earthquake country here, I keep track of the earthquake magnitude and the distance from our house. It's just fun to look at. This is the tide in Redwood City that comes from the NOAA data, the air quality. And then I have a bunch of these battery operated buttons where I monitor the temperature, and A, that tells me the battery's still good if I'm getting temperature, and B, it's just kind of fun to check. And then this was that study in another bedroom there where you can see the study motion keeps triggering and the study light is on. But if he were just to leave the room and the motion stays for more than 30 minutes, then it would automatically turn off. So now I'm going to walk you around the house. And let's see, before I do that, I need to stop sharing. Okay, and then I need to yank my side monitor out and let the computer recover for a moment. Okay. Let's see. And so before I even get too far, I just want to show you, this is my little test desk area. And you can see that these are all things I made with MicroBlocks. This is a little M5 stack, and it has a PIR sensor. So this is actually, I play around with these things. Here's my own little air quality sensor right here. It's a clicky board. I have this microbit set up as a two push buttons. This one is the on one. When I push it on, my hello LED goes on, and my other microbit sensor goes on. And when I push it to this one, it goes off. If I push them both, then my LEDs on that guy go on. Or I can turn that off. And then this is an infrared transmitter and receiver. If I push this button, then those numbers that I receive are shown, and then I have another button that I can actually transmit. So I can use off-the-shelf TV remotes to control this, or I can use this to pretend to be a TV remote. So all these fun things you can do with microcontrollers and MicroBlocks. Oh, and I should be able to demonstrate the voice part of it if it's running. Let's see. Hey Snips, turn on the hello LED.
Sorry, I couldn't find a match.
I must have called it the hello LED. Well, we'll go demonstrate the voice with the other thing. I have to remember the names of all those things. All right, so first things first, I'll just show you like the front door and outside. So outside I have the garden lights that go on by themselves automatically, but I also have this little Ikea remote, and this is one where I can change the color and turn it on and off. And here you can see there, that's the front door motion. And actually, I don't know if you want to, I can share that window. Let's see. Let me, because it's kind of fun to see the screen as I share. So, go. Uh-oh. Where did I just, there we go. All right, I'm gonna share that particular screen. I don't know if that's gonna work. Let me just try it. Let's see. Oh, application window, that's what I want. This application window, sure. Okay, so now I can't see what I'm showing you. I can't see myself. Or can I? But down here, so if I push this button, then these lights right there, you can see it go on. If I press a different button here, I forget which color is what, but I can actually change the color to different things. It's orange. And then there's an LED strip. It's red. And then there's a little porch motion sensor right here. That's Xiaomi is the brand for that guy. I'm gonna turn my garden light back off. Again, if I do this, that's a Xiaomi sensor. That one's not as fancy as the Samsung Smartthings. There's also a front hall motion right here. Oops. Right here, which is an Ikea one. Those things are pretty much most of my battery stuff is Zigbee. And now here's the meat of it right here is the actual Raspberry Pi. Here's you see the TV area motion. That's that thing. And there's a button for lights. And here's this Google one, so I can do something like, well, let's see. I can just open it directly right here and make it say something like, let's say there's a leak.
Check under the sink for possible leak.
And so again, if the leak goes off, it will do that for me. It will say that. Now let's turn something on, like right over there is a TV bulb that's blue, this one. Hey Snips, turn on the TV bulb.
Setting power off to on.
And so that's the bulb right there. And then here's my Sonos, and I have a button I can turn it on, but it can also just do it with my voice. Hey Snips, turn on the Sonos. So hopefully you can hear that. And then I can simply turn it off. And I can even change the color, like, hey Snips, set the TV bulb to orange.
Setting bulb to orange.
And so now the TV bulb is orange. You can do a whole bunch of, in fact, I can show you here. The Voco has its own page as an add-on. And so I can ask it questions. There's all these hints of, if you push the question mark, it tells you all the things you can ask. You know, so I can ask if something is open, like a door. You can switch things on and off. You can set certain values. So all of this stuff is processed locally. So this is all the things it understands. And if I set a timer, it will show you the time, like I'm baking or something. Hey Snips, set a timer for 5 minutes.
A timer has been set for 5 minutes.
And then it will tell you that that timer is running. And you can tell it to turn something on for 5 minutes, and then it will automatically turn it off after 5 minutes. So I think the local voice stuff is just super cool. And then I have, this is the entry door. So if I open that, you see that door goes on right there. So that's that little button. It's a Samsung Smartthings one, and I have one of those for the garage door. I can tell this little button here is everything. And so with all the lights, I can just click that off. I have an outdoor string that's actually plugged into an Ikea smart plug way out in the upper deck. So outside, so if you can. That up in, and instead I have this little button here, or I can use my voice, and I just push this button and the string goes on. And so now you an outdoor motion sensor and other things and whatnot. I think the last thing I was going to show you is the view. Remember I showed you earlier this little camera. So this is just a laundry room up front. And so if you look at the view of that camera, if I click this picture here, you should be able to see somewhat of a similar view. And so that's how that works. And then there's a little, right over here, I have a little Xiaomi temperature sensor, little tiny thing here. And then if I want all these lights to go off at any certain, just everything off, I can just push the everything button and there's a rule to turn off all those lights. So I'm going to run upstairs to show you other stuff, but I'm going to conclude that part for now and just quickly, let's see, let me get back to this mode. Am I still sharing?
No.
Okay. Did I?
Yeah.
Was I sharing earlier or not?
Yeah, no, it just went off. I think when you went into the laundry room, that's when it stopped sharing. So, yeah.
Maybe I accidentally clicked it, but that's good timing because I was just going to stop sharing. So let's see what you have. The only other thing I wanted to show you was MicroBlocks, but maybe we've kind of run out of time, so I could say that for another time. MicroBlocks, again, is the thing I programmed all these little guys with, and it's super cool. So the website is microblocks.fun. I'll leave that for your homework. So I'll go ahead and we'll break things up, and you tell me how we proceed from here.
Yeah, so we have a couple questions. Just before I get into the question, Laurie, if you want to come on stage, if you could raise your hand, otherwise I'll just ask the question. So I have a question from Robert. Is there any rule checking? Make sure no rules are conflicting.
Nope, there's no rule checking. If rules are conflicting, like I created rules intentionally to try to have one trigger another, like every second, just to create a blinking light. One turned it on, one turned it off. But, it's an open source project. So if you wanted to add rule checking, you could. But once you set the rules, I think it's not that hard to figure them out.
All right.
I've never felt the need.
Okay, so Laurie, Laurie's
Hi,
calling all the
Kathy.
way from the UK.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here. I'm just struggling to keep my eyes open. I was dying to see your home. That's why I stayed up. But great, very interesting talk. And I'm just logged into microblocks.fun. So I'm going to grandchildren this weekend. So maybe we'll get that going for them. Can I get the gear in the UK? Or I guess it's downloadable. It's an open source project anyway, is it?
Yeah, it's free open source software, and the microbits were launched by BBC.
Absolutely, we've got plenty of microbits here already. So the question that I put up on the chat room was, can you just explain to me again what's running what's the home server application that's running on the Raspberry Pi?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Is that a WebThings server, or is it another server application that's running there?
It's actually just a Raspbian image with the WebThings application running into it. So we built the Raspbian image so that you can plug in you can just flash an SD card with the image you download, and it turns the whole Raspberry Pi into the WebThings server. If you don't want to turn your whole Raspberry Pi into the WebThings server, you can actually you can get the application from Docker. So a lot of people, you can run it on a desktop or anything where you can run Docker. You can pull the Docker image. Okay. And then there are also packages you can install on a few of the Linux distros, Ubuntu and Debian and Arch.
Excellent. I'll look into that further. And one other question, if I may, Hans, while I've got the floor. We have a house in France, and we let it out during the summer. So is it possible to universally change the language from English to French just with one rule? Is that
in localization? There's some like 30 different languages globally. So we took advantage of the Firefox translators, and they just we launched the project.
So you don't have to record messages in 2 languages, and that sounds really cool.
So it's supported by a lot of languages.
Thank you. Great show. Thanks, Hans. And I'm going to bed now. Good night.
All right. Thanks. Have a good night. We have. I'm going to bring Milan onto the stage.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Great presentation. It's the reasons I want a house and not live in an apartment, so I can put all these things. And actually, my wife loves controlling lights and everything, so it's going to be great once we can do that. But my question is, because the most frustrating thing for me is reliability. I have to relearn things, and I have, as you said, several different big companies. I have Apple and I have Amazon, a couple of different plugs, but sometimes they just drop off and stop working and there's no reliability. Is it a little bit more reliable since it's running locally, or you have to kind of relearn your things every once in a while where they forget what they are?
The only issue I've had is when I changed a Wi-Fi network and I had to re-onboard my Wi-Fi plugs. They were such a pain. They were just, especially the Wemo ones. I think they were the absolute worst. TP-Link was not too bad. So I try to avoid those. Actually, if you can get Zigbee, you have to have a Zigbee dongle. But if you can get Zigbee, the Ikea smart plugs are only $9.99, and they work flawlessly. I have that one that does the string lighting outdoors. That Ikea plug, it's supposed to be an indoor plug. I mean, this is California, but it's on my upper deck and it's just outdoors all year round and it's never failed. Same with one of the plugs out in my front.
Your advice is stay away from Wi-Fi if you can. Go with like Zigbee.
I avoid Wi-Fi. I go with Zigbee whenever possible.
Yeah, that's kind of what I found too, because there's 100 apartments in my building. I noticed somebody kept jumping on my network even though it's encrypted and locked. So I finally hit it and found that one of my plugs wouldn't work anymore because the app that I had to use did not find hidden networks. So I had to pretty much put it in the drawer and go to a different plug.
The only thing you have to remember and just take notes when you first buy something is for Zigbee devices, if you do have to reset them, you have to remember what the factory set was. Like if your dongle crash or something like that. But so like some of them you push the button 5 times and some you hold the button for 10 seconds. And that's the only Zigbee weirdness is factory resets.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, man. All right. We have one more question. This is from Cody. Cody, if you do want to come on stage and raise your hand. So what are your plans for the future of your smart home? That was actually a question I had as well.
So I'm always finding things that either I want to do for convenience or that annoy me. Because the thing annoyance is my husband leaves the garage light on and it's not a light you see before going to bed. And so I'm going to deploy just a light sensor in the garage. And when the light sensor is on and it's after 10 p.m. or I set a time, one pulse things and there's a timeout and it's been on too long, then unfortunately, like probably I'll set it like around 10 p.m. to let us know that the garage light is still on. So there'd be a rule, if time is greater than 10 p.m. and light in the garage is on, do the little Google Home, hey, you left the light on in the garage. It was super cool when we did the air quality when we had those wildfires, because I asked a guy in Germany who's really good at add-ons in the community. I said, gosh, I keep looking at this Purple Air website and I would love to know that data and pull it in. And in a day, he had an add-on pulling in that data. And then I wrote my rule to say, okay, it's after 10 p.m. and the air quality goes bad and our sliding glass doors went open, then I'll announce it. So one time it woke us up at 3 a.m. when the wind changes direction and the wildfire winds come. And the rule was such as it was an and rule. I just had to close the door and it stopped warning us.
Very cool. So I don't know if I missed this. I had another question. So how does it discover the devices? Are you pointing at it? It goes.
Discovery just depends on the device. So when you ask me again about my smart home, what I would love to do is I have these banks of lights, hand lighting, because we remodeled. And I would love to have them all be, configurable so that I could, when I entertain, I just set a theme or something like that, or at least, turn them off automatically. That would be nice. But in general, I would say the onboarding process for Zigbee and Z-Wave is easy because you just put them into onboarding and you click the plus to add new things and it just finds them and you add them. And most of the IP address kinds of stuff with an add-on, it just automatically finds them. So I would say for the most part, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's pretty easy to add more stuff.
I think that's it for questions. That's it for questions. Yeah, this is really cool. Yeah.
I don't know.
You have
Yeah, I could ask you hundreds of questions. I think I just need to go and play with the WebThings again. So you're using Google Home. Could you do this with an Alexa, an Amazon, or what are the fundamental?
Yeah, I never found a way to. There isn't the same API on the Alexa for making it say random things. And so my Google Homes just sit there on mute. I don't actually use them because I have my own Snips local private voice. So yeah, I don't know why, but Alexa doesn't have that open API to just send it text and it gets text to speech. There is
I think that's a purpose. That now that you mentioned that, yeah, I do remember that. You can't push a message.
There is an add-on, a text-to add-on for the Raspberry Pi itself. If you have this speaker, you can have it speak, but it's so robotic that it's not really ready for prime time. But people from Mozilla have spun out the speech-to-text and text-to-speech in a new kind of nonprofit or a startup kind of thing. And so I'm hoping that eventually we'll get it so that you can run the text-to-speech without the Google Home. It will just be on the same platform with the same speaker that you input, because this is a speaker so it can speak and it replies. So you could just use the local speaker. I love the local voice and local announcements. I mean, just announcements that actually tell you something rather than just beep. Like your appliances, like they beep, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that I plan to do is hook up a sound sensor to listen for my dumb alarms. Like I have fire alarm. I don't have a burglar because I do my own security with motion and stuff, but I do have these loud fire alarms. And if you're not here, you don't hear them, right? So I was going to hook up a sound sensor above a certain decibels, then it would send me an alert.
Cool. There is a question that just came in.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Aaron.
No, I mean, one of the things that this absolutely reminds me, and why to me this type of stuff is so important, is you can see how this is such a cheap way to prototype. I mean, you've spent the time to improve your life, but in a workspace, I mean, it's $50-$100 type things here and there, where you could go and really prototype kind of rules and I'm assuming send it up to whatever cloud thing that you have, or take your thing.
Again, I'm not saying anything to the cloud, but I think the rules and the personalization is what really are cool. Because if you think about it, the rules, if you don't have interoperability, then you're either only your rules work in a Samsung Smartthings environment, or only work in this environment, or only work in that environment. It's a lot harder to get things to work.
Yeah.
The way you want it
to. Okay, so there's a couple of questions. Peter asks, have you interfaced to actuators to control water flow, like a drip irrigation system, followed by use of sensors to check soil conditions? Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's going to be one of my maker challenges, because I do have an automatic sprinkler system, but it's not a connected one. I think you can buy some, but it's a little bit more of one of those maker things. So I do kind of want to do that, where I can look at both the actual weather data coming in, is it raining or not, and then have soil moisture. That would definitely be an optimization as well. You can definitely do that. I mean, with the add-on system, you can really do anything.
Yeah. All right.
MicroBlocks and making your own things, you can do anything too.
Awesome. Okay, Millen is back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm loving everything you're saying, and it kind of goes back to my days when I was a mechanic, and we got this new machine that we can tie into everything. But the question was, well, what about these machines that are 20, 30 years old? Well, you can't really see what they're doing, but it looks like it's a lot easier to do this at home.
Somebody
It's
wrote
great
a
that
10 add-on.
it's great that we're like Aaron pointed out, we're doing this investigation at home, so we're trying to figure out what we want as users, and we can make a viable product. So my question to you is, has this been more of a something fun to do, or has it given you kind of peace of mind and security in the long run?
Well, I would say both. You know, it's fun to do, and peace of mind and security. Like, I don't have a security system, but I saw that somebody recently did an add-on for, or made it's kind of a maker attachment for an existing security system that's wired. You know, you have these expensive installations of door magnets and motion sensors and stuff, and they cost you an arm and a leg. And then, like, you sell the house to somebody else and they have a dead wired home, right? Somebody created just like basically sensing those wires, you know, take the old security system, yank it out, and then measure all that stuff. And it's their own private security system. So for me, this has definitely been a security thing that I never had before. I never had a security system here. So that security is really nice. The on-off light convenience for just, you know, porch lighting going on and off at night by itself, I cannot tell you how convenient that is, because when we're not home, nobody's here to turn on those lights. And so if we're gone for the weekend and it stayed dark all the time, it's kind of like if somebody were driving by and trying to see who's home or not, it's a lot more obvious. And instead, now I have a desk, I just close the shade, and even the indoor looks like there's a room with a light on. So I think the convenience of lighting is also a security benefit, if you will. So
you can program your home, your own Home Alone scene where you had all the people dancing and had the party in the first one. Kind of program it now where it can do that for you. Well, thank you, because that's all I think about is like, okay, great, but we have an apartment back in Europe. Can we do more? Can we know what's going on? My in-laws can go there. We have an alarm, but only they can hear because the security company comes.
Right. Right.
If they call them, we're so far away, and that's kind of what Lori was referring to with their vacation home. So it's great to see that all these things kind of give you a peace of mind. It's not just I'm lazy to turn off the light, but it's what else can I do so the risk of all this is transferred to somebody else watching out for my house, not just me thinking about it all the time.
And there's catastrophic problems like leaks. Like if you have a water tank somewhere, you know, leaks can be catastrophic. And even the guy who founded Samsung Smartthings had a vacation home where something went out, you know, the heat and the pipes froze and it caused all this water damage. And so just a simple measure of temperature in those sort of extreme environments can be super valuable to people.
Or your roof starts leaking, right, Hans?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right. All right, we have a question from Peter. Are there commercial vendors that are offering similar off-web implementation similar to the MicroBlocks example?
There is a guy in Poland who has picked up on the WebThings project, and he's starting to build his own ESP 32 or 8266, his own WebThings compatible things, and then you just run the Raspberry Pi with the WebThings application, and then he's selling the things of the kit. It's alpha46.com, ALFA 46.com. But he's focusing on Poland right now, but I think there will be more of those types of things, and, you know.
Yeah.
if you're interested in all of this, my email is just kathy.giori@gmail.com. Feel free to ask me, and I'll help everyone. I've helped my in-laws and some other family and other friends, and I just tell them what things to buy, or I buy it for them and set them up.
Awesome. Yeah, no, this is really good, because I'm going through that right now, and you're talking about your the recessed lights. I have him here who replaced every single light. He has close to I don't know how he has close to 100 recessed lights, and it's all Philips, and none of the gateways could handle the number of lights that he has in the house. So I'm going to tell him to check this out.
This could help him out. And instead of replacing all the light bulbs, I just intend to place the wall switch.
Yeah.
And so I have a wall switch that does a bank of lights. And I just a few key wall switches where I want it to automatically go on or off is really the starting point. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. After talking to him, that's exactly what I'm doing as well. Yeah. Cool. I think that was the last of the questions. We're at 5:20. Thank you, Kathy. This was really good. This actually got me excited. I'm going to go and check it out. Is there like a list of certified devices or? Yeah,
there's so WebThings.io is where you get the links to GitHub. The whole project is on GitHub, and on the GitHub wiki, there's a list of supported hardware. It's not complete, and so the other way to look up supported hardware is just by looking at the add-ons, because some of the add-ons just have brands associated with them. But pretty much all the standard Zigbee stuff at Ikea and Xiaomi, and it used to be Samsung, now no longer, and I forget if there's any other new vendors in that realm. Or Z-Wave. So Z-Wave is an option. I have a Z-Wave stick here somewhere. Where'd that go? But I don't know, put it somewhere else. But I find that they're a little more expensive. Just Ikea is just such a great choice for Zigbee.
Yeah. It's amazing. Ikea got into the smart home business as well. Cool.
And you don't buy the Ikea hub. You don't buy the Philips hub. You don't buy the Smartthings hub. You don't buy the Zigbee device itself.
Yeah, that's cool. No hubs and gateways other than the Raspberry Pi. And
the Con 2 dongle that you can buy from Amazon is about $40. That's the little Zigbee stick add-on.
Okay. Very good. Aaron, anything else from you?
Yeah, what's the first way to just start?
I would, if you have a Raspberry Pi, just flash an image onto the, you have the little the micro SD card. Put it in a slot. You basically just download the image, and you put the raw downloaded image with Balena Etcher I use, flash it onto the SD card, plug that into here, boot the Pi, and what it does is it boots into an access point mode. You look for your SSID, WebThings Gateway - 4 digits of the last 4 digits of the MAC address. You select, it captive portals you back, shows you the Wi-Fi access points in your home that it sees. You select your home access point, put in the password. Next thing it does is ask you for a subdomain. So mine is like giori.webthings.io, and or whatever you want, myhome.webthings.io. Once that subdomain is taken, you can't use it. So get your name or whatever you like. That's a step. So step 1 is Wi-Fi, or you can just plug in the Ethernet and it just works. Step 2 is pick your subdomain. It sets up the tunnel, does the certification. So now you can tunnel in from HTTPS from the outside without changing your firewall rules at all. So it does the automatic. And then the third step is your user account. So you're the only user account that has that HTTPS authorization to get in and see the web interface. And then just bookmark the app on your home screen using add to home screen. Like on an iPhone, you have to do Safari. but Android, you can pick your browser, I think. And then it just shows up then as an app that you just click on. I mean, it's not really an app. It's a progressive web app.
Okay. And that's on the forum, right? Or on the WebThings app?
Yeah, there's a user guide and a getting started guide that shows that stuff. Okay. And I can share my presentation if you want it.
I was going to say, just line, I was joking with Hans that, yeah, we need to have a tutorial day.
I think we do a workshop day.
Yeah, where we all go and buy one thing, and then at the end of the tutorial, we have that, whatever that is, working and our account set up. So I told you I could ask questions for hours, so I'll stop.
Well, we have some time in the networking lounge, but again, thank you, Kathy. This is really good, and motivated me as well. And I have something to do this weekend. And otherwise, if folks are interested in a follow-up session on MicroBlocks, reach out to Aaron or I, and we'll set that up. Yeah. Otherwise, once I end this session, it's going to switch everyone back into the lounge.
Okay.
Whoever wants to hang around, you're welcome to hang around. And I think Kathy's going to hang around a little bit and ask her questions directly just look for her at one of the tables.
Yeah.
Otherwise, thank you, everyone.
I would love to come back and show MicroBlocks. Yes. And you can bring your kids or your grandkids too.
Okay. All right. We'll set that up. Deal. Okay. We'll set that up.
Good.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'm going to end the session here. I'll see you guys over in the lounge in a few minutes.